Welcome back once again to this fine episode of From the Workshop. I am your host, Brandon Hart. We have with us once again, Mr.
John Young.
Thank you for playing along. So we're following actually up on an episode that we did just a little while ago, talking about device security and IoT devices and what it takes to make sure that everything is secured and not hackable and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like maybe we have scared some people. I feel like maybe people may have walked away from our last video with more questions perhaps than answers. So we're going to get down to it. I brought a device. I think you brought a device. And what we're going to talk about is, with each of our devices, what is it going to take to lock the thing down, to secure it, to what are the best practices for each type of device? Sound fair?
Sounds fair.
All right, let's do it. So, I'm going to kick things off. I brought with me the Super Widget 9000. This little baby runs on an 8-bit microcontroller. It has, it's battery powered. It is cellular connected with a SkyWire Category M1 modem. It is also collecting sensor data. So it's collecting temperature, it's collecting UV radiation, and it's collecting soil moisture readings. And it is waking up and transmitting those sensor readings once every 4 hours.
Okay.
Okay. For the rest of the time, it's asleep. It's conserving battery power, etc. So that is the Super Widget 9000. Mr. John Young, please tell me how I can secure this Super Widget device.
So a couple of things. You said that it's sleeping for most of the time.
Yes.
And it is waking up and then, I assume, turning on the cellular modem to conserve battery.
Yep.
And sending its data and then going back to sleep. That's helpful because the device now isn't available to get connected to.
Okay.
If there's no power to it. So
right. So if it's not connected, then it can't be, if it's not on the network, then it can't be attacked from the network.
Correct.
Or through the network. All right. Cool.
So I would also, once it is on the network, I would connect that through a VPN. So
okay.
The cellular data path through to your server is connected on a virtual private network.
Okay, so the cellular carrier's private network.
Yes.
You wouldn't necessarily run software on here to a VPN client to be able to end-to-end encrypt over VPN connection from the device.
Yeah, based on your processor, I'd say that might be a little hard.
Tough to do. Okay,
yes.
Got it. Okay, good. What else?
Physical security. There's no visible screws on here, so that is good. It makes it less tempting to sort of pull the handle and open the box up and see what's in there.
Okay. I use those types of screws that only turn one way.
So the security
screws.
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
So that's useful until you need to actually work on it again. But it helps to prevent tampering with it.
Yeah.
The thing I would say is there's also still an attack vector for me to come in and get at this data. And
how's that?
I can take this apart.
Okay.
I get a big knife or a saw or cut this open, and then once I have a hammer would work too. I might want to protect the device and the battery inside. I don't know what's in there.
All right.
The microprocessor has a way to protect the code that is running on there. So you can lock their fuses in your processor that you can basically burn, and then it allows the code to be protected so that nobody can get in there and change the parameters.
These are physical fuses?
They are
like a virtual.
They're virtual fuses.
Software
they're
fuses.
settable fuses that you can use with the programmer to put your image on there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Because presumably this thing will connect and send the data to your server.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
I would I would protect it from getting in there and sending it to my server. So now you've built these devices. If I can get in there and change that data, that endpoint where it's sending the data,
Yeah.
I can send it to my server instead.
How do you prevent it from doing that?
You've locked down the software, so I can't get in there and just go in and read the data software out, change the code, and push the.
I prevented you from altering it locally, is what you're
Yes.
saying. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Anything else?
So
That's
how?
quite a bit right there, but
So when you're sending the data,
yeah.
I'm assuming that you aren't using a TLS or transport layer security.
I don't know. Should I?
You have an 8-bit processor in there, so I'm guessing that is very difficult for you to do
Okay.
with all the other things that your application is doing in there.
Right. Yes, I'm very resource limited here.
So let's do one thing we can do is we can take all of the data that you send and put a cryptographic hash on that data and send it across the network to the other side. Then your server can then look at that data and make sure that it is coming actually from your device and it hasn't been changed and altered in any way.
Okay.
So then the data is still going plain text over the internet, but the data has a hash that's signed that you know that it came from this device.
So that way, if data in clear text came from somewhere else,
Or altered it.
so that it wasn't signed properly, it would be rejected by the server.
Yes. And so now you know you've authenticated that this device and the integrity of the data is actually good. So now you've got protected data, you protected the data and the code inside of here, you protected where it's sending it to,
Yep.
and you've ensured the integrity of that message as it goes across the clear internet.
In transit.
In transit.
Okay. Very good. Are you done locking down my device, or do you have anything more you want to throw at it?
Based on the data that it's sending, I think you're probably okay there.
Okay.
You know, if you wanted to, there are other ways you can encrypt the data, the actual data itself, and send that over the clear text. So you could also have a key in there, encrypt that data with that key, send it across to the other side, and then the server would have to decrypt it with that key.
Okay, that wouldn't be too heavy lifting for my little 8-bit microcontroller?
You can make some encryption work in an 8-bit micro.
Okay. So to summarize, if we can.
You've done some physical
access to the device, so nobody can get in, mess with the code, change the destination address, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay. I have implemented authentication,
Yes.
right, on the device itself, so that when the data is sent, it is trusted as being from my device.
You can validate, the server can validate that it actually came from your device because of the cryptographic hash that you're using on the other end.
Okay, very good. What else? So we've got the data, the physical access to the device. We've got the authentication and having it hashed in transit. The fuses.
The fuses to protect the integrity of the software that's running.
Yep.
And the VPN for the cellular network.
There it is. That's the little piece I was missing. The VPN. Okay, very good. So this is for a smaller device that is, a much lower horsepower, much lower memory kind of device. I understand you brought your own type of device.
I did bring my own device. Super Widget X.
X. All right. Extreme. Okay. Well, you certainly have a lot more going on than I did with mine. So tell me what you got going on there, John.
So I have a box that has the ability to have the secure screws like you do. I can put those in here.
Okay.
I have a lock and a tamper evident seal I can put on here too, so that if it's opened, we will know. Inside the box, it is much bigger because it is running a larger board with more processing on it, and it has more sensor inputs, and it also has a larger battery because it is running all the time.
You just had to 3-up me, huh? 1 up wasn't good enough.
1 up.
All right.
So this board runs Linux,
Yeah.
and I have a full stack on there. One of the things that I've done also is the physical security of the box itself, but inside the box I have encased the board in a very difficult to get at substance. So if you
Mystery substance.
if you take the board
Yeah.
and you try to get to it, you're going to ruin the board itself.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So lots of physical security.
Lots of
on this
physical
device.
security. The processor I've chosen, I also have a secure boot process in there. So the processor will not run software unless it has passed the encryption, decryption of the validation of the software that's running. So each step in the boot process, it looks at the code and makes sure that it has been signed by somebody that it trusts.
Oh, okay.
And so if any step in that process is not passed, then the board won't even boot up, and so we won't even have the device reporting invalid data to anywhere.
Got it. Wow. Okay. What else you got going on here, John?
So I've also have a client certificate in here that each device is identified with a client certificate. So there's a client certificate and the server certificate, and the client certificate is used when it tries to make a connection. The server will reject anybody that doesn't have the client certificate. So that's part of the standard TLS handshake. And one of the stages in there is the server comes back and says, "Give me your cert," and then it will look at it and validate that it is who it says it is.
Okay. Great.
The encryption algorithms are encrypting the tunnel, and there's a well-known path for that. It's well exercised in all of the HTTPS servers that you are hitting now. Banking level security. We don't have banking level security in here.
Okay.
There's not a hardware crypto chip in here that makes sure that the keys are not accessible, but they are wrapped in the bootloader code. So we make sure that you can't get access to that by software means.
Okay. So you've talked about physical security on the device. You've talked about the integrity of data when it reaches the server. What about in between?
So same thing. I'm going to use the same VPN that we talked about for the cellular VPN.
Okay. As the Super Widget 9000?
As the Super Widget 9000.
Okay. Same one.
Same one. So the path from the cellular network into my server is protected. The device security for connections, it does the same thing. It will not enable the cellular modem until I am ready to connect. It only does outbound connections. It never does allow inbound connections. So I've protected the device from being accessed from the outside world.
Very good. Okay. Anything else that you're doing on this device that was above and beyond what we did on the Super Widget 9000?
None that I could talk about.
Okay. Spoken like a true security guy. All right. So hopefully these examples were helpful. We've got the sort of low-level, low-horsepower, resource-constrained device with the Super Widget 9000. You brought the Super Widget X, which has plenty of horsepower to handle anything it needs to be able to do, is also very securely locked up from a local access perspective, and able to handle all of the hashing, all of the encryption, all of the authentication that would be necessary to lock it down so that the data that is transmitted and reaches your servers is the correct data, is not compromised in any way, and is secure in transit as well.
Yes.
There we go.
There's a lot of pieces moving in that, so I will probably need to update the software in here once it's out in the field.
Aha. So you're pushing software updates to this
So
one.
I'm pushing software updates to this device. The software updates are also validated that they have been signed by a known certificate authority. So
Right.
we know that this device software update is valid. We also make sure that we can't roll back to previous versions of software because we may have fixed a bug
Right.
that is in a previous version that allows somebody access where they shouldn't have.
Now, if you're not having this device ever receive incoming connections, how do you tell it there's an update available?
So the device will go out and it'll talk to the server.
Yep.
And it will ask the server for parameters and information. And part of that information is, hey, you have a new security update. Okay. Fetch the security update now, and then I'll fetch it.
Got it. Cool. Very good. Thank you very much, sir. I think that's a little bit clearer. Hopefully it's a little less scary than what we may have had in the previous conversation. A little bit more tangible, I think, examples of how security would be implemented in multiple different scenarios. So now the Super Widget 9000 is even more secure.
Multi-purpose.
There you go. Nice. So again, thank you very much for joining us for this sort of bonus episode from the workshop for the security discussion. Thank you very much, John, for walking us through all of that. Again, if you have questions, if you have comments, please leave them in the YouTube comments here, or shoot them to our email address, which is workshop@nimblelink.com. And until next time, have fun building securely.